Beneath the eucalypts live Banksias, ancient plants going back to the primeval rainforest. They are inhabited by pygmy possums. Vacant bird nests often provide a home, and some of their food comes from insects. Insects are relished, but the Banksias themselves provide their small guests with even more important nourishment. The pygmy possums feed on the nectar, and in so doing, help pollinate the flowers. The possum babies soon get the hang of clambering around. After all, the pygmy possums and Banksias evolved together over an immensely long time. The shape of the flowers suits these nocturnal pollinators. Each spike has hundreds of tiny flowers, densely packed together to provide support, and plenty of nectar and pollen. Banksias and their relatives come splendidly into their own in the heathlands, especially here in Western Australia. In these ancient leached soils, so poor they're almost pure sand, climatic hardships created an evolutionary nursery without parallel. So many flowers eager to attract pollinators have fostered a matching diversity of insects. Many, like these jewel beetles, are rewarded with nectar, but some plants show even greater entrepreneurial flair. Honey-eaters make good go-betweens, and many plants employ them. Even more recruit insects, and the result is a wonderful assortment of shapes designed to suit the various visitors. Certain plants even resort to fraud to seduce insects. One group of orchids cunningly exploits the sexual habits of this wasp, habits remarkable enough in themselves. The female has no wings, and when she's ready to mate, she rubs off chemical signals for a male to come and fly off with her. The wasps mate on the wing, and, still coupled end to end, he takes her to some nectar-rich flowers. Now he feeds, dragging his partner behind him. She can't feed herself, but when he's had his fill, he rubs her abdomen, which prompts her to curl forward and receive a few drops from his mouth. Feeding her is his investment in the eggs now forming in her body. The whole method hangs on the chemical signals she sends out, and the orchids have evolved almost identical signals to trick the male wasps into trying to copulate with them, and so become their pollen carriers. This flower looks as well as smells like a sexy female wasp. and he keeps on trying to mate even when the orchid flips him onto its pollen-bearing part. Such mimicry is an economic way of seducing pollinators without having to supply nectar, a great advantage in these poor soils. The plants that use birds do give a reward, but the flowers are shaped so that the visitor has to collect a dab of pollen as well. The honey-eaters are also matched to the task. Inside the long bill, there's a long tongue, tipped with a brush to soak up the nectar. Rather than opt for one particular kind of pollinator, Banksias play the field. Their dense blooms are arranged to tempt various honey-eaters, reward them with nectar, and ensure they carry away pollen. But those same blooms also support a much more ancient partnership with this extraordinary animal. Much smaller than a mouse, the marsupial honey possum is one of the very few mammals in the world designed to feed exclusively on nectar and pollen. Like the honey-eating birds, it has a long tongue fitted with a brush at the end. The partnership began in the ancestral rainforests, and while many other plants and animals vanished, the honey possums stayed with the Banksias as they became transformed into these hardy plants of the bush.